This was maybe the hardest video I have ever had to make. So much more preparation went into this video than I think I've ever done in a video before. I had to send out a survey for you guys. I had to break down the season and really look at the riggery. Then I had to take into account things like voting, and there was so much that went into this video, and I started to realize this could be very confusing. So I spent a lot of time putting together graphics for this and trying to make this video make as much sense as possible. So let's buckle in because we are in for a long ride. Today, we are going to break down how All-Star 6 would have went if there was no rigging, if it was completely fair. And the thing that I think made this harder than other seasons is the fact that the cast as a whole did so well each week. So determining winner, determining who's in the bottom is really difficult because it wasn't as obvious as in other seasons. There aren't as many episodes with a very clear winner and a very clear bottom two. So I've come up with a new system to help me determine what is rigged and what is not. I have put together a grading scale. So each episode, I gave each queen a grade between A and D. A means it was superb, it was incredible, not a single critique could be given about their performance. B means it was really good, it was solid, there's maybe one or two notes of things that could be changed, but they're really not big deals. A C grade means it wasn't bad, but there was definitely points where it could have been better, and there are some clear issues with the performance. And then there is a D, which is just like a flop. Like, you flopped that week. And there's not too many Ds, so that is just a sign of how good the season is. If you guys like this format, I think I'm going to keep it for further videos like this. The way then that I implemented this is if I gave a queen the highest rating, so let's say that there's 4 queens that got an A. If one of those 4 queens won for that challenge, then I see it as not rigged. Even if I don't personally agree and maybe there's a queen who I liked a little bit more, if the queen still had an A-worthy performance, then her win will not be disputed. Same with a D or a C. If there are queens who have the lowest score, whether that's a D or a C, and they both end up in the bottom, then I will not dispute it. You're going to understand as we go through, I think. We're just going to have to kind of go for it and start and break down these episodes and really dive right in. But before we do that, make sure that you are subscribed. We're reaching 30K. Thank you to everyone who is subscribed. Also, if you are able, check out my Patreon. Also, my Instagram and my Twitter are always active. I'm always reposting things, tweeting my feelings, putting up little fun graphics on Instagram. So go check that out if you want. And now let's dive right in. We're going to talk about every episode. There'll be lots of information, but we will get through this together. So episode 1 is the variety show. A couple things that I looked for in my criteria for this is 1, was it entertaining? 2, did it bring anything new? 3, was it branded towards the queen themselves? So I gave 1 D, and I think we all know who it is. It's Trinity K Bonet. Unfortunately, her talent show was just not it, like, at all. So she gets the 1 D here. Now, for queens who I gave a C to, first, I gave SERENA Cha-Cha a C. I actually didn't dislike her performance that much. On first watch, I actually thought it was good, but when you really break it down, it was a bit disjointed, like why were the wigs there? It was a good idea, but I think she could have taken it further, so it gets a C. I'm also going to give Jiggly Caliente a C because hers just lacked the energy. She kind of stopped lip syncing the songs. These were older songs that we've heard for like years now, so it kind of felt maybe a little tired to be doing them here. The last C, and this might be controversial, I gave Ginger Minj a C. One, because she's a singer and she lip synced. And we've seen her do this talent show before. So her job is to now do it better. And she didn't. She sang live on the All Stars 2 talent show, and it was a really solid performance. She looked beautiful. This talent show, she lip synced, and really, like, she's not a dancer, so she just kind of walked around the stage. Really, the thing you go to a Ginger Minj show for is to hear her sing. And it was just kind of like, what's the point of this? You're walking around the stage. Yes, you have props. Yes, you look adorable, but you're not dancing and you're not singing. So what's the talent here? Now, there were a lot of B performances here. I ended up giving SILKY a B because she showed an actual talent playing the piano, something we've never seen before. Her vocals were good. Was the performance like as grandiose as it could have been? No, but I thought it was solid enough, and she showed, a true, real, raw talent. So I thought it deserved a B. KERIA really didn't do anything that we haven't seen before, but she's an excellent dancer. She looked incredible. So I gave her a B here as well. Pandora Box I gave a B. It was a fun song. She had the silly string gag, but again, Pandora's not a dancer, so she was just kind of performing the song. So was it good? Yeah, but it just wasn't like blowing me away. I also actually gave, spoiler alert, the winner of this challenge a B, which means she's not really gonna win when we break down what should have happened. Yara Sofia, I gave a B. Yes, it was something we haven't seen. It was very funny. But at the same time, it just wasn't, like, the best thing I've ever seen. I just thought there were queens that did a much more interesting performance, but this is right down Rue's alley, like, humor-wise, so I guess it makes sense why she would do this, and it worked out for her. So I also gave Eureka a B. She just stood there and lip-synced. I thought she could have sung live, and it really would have kind of put it into that A territory for me. It was a nice tribute to her mom, and the projections on the dress was something we haven't seen before. So I thought that was good enough to put into a B. And then lastly is Kylie. So she did good. She looked great. It just wasn't like, wow. There's nothing negative that I have to say about it. It just didn't go over the top for me like some of the other queens did. So that leaves 3 queens who I gave an A to. Now, I did give Scarlet Envy an A. It was very much like Ben de la Crème's burlesque number, but she added an element, the bubbles, that one was branded towards her for her iconic bubble runway, and she added humor to it, which we haven't really seen Scarlet excel at necessarily on Drag Race, and she looked beautiful. So the fact that it was something we hadn't seen before, bubbles, it was funny, there were layers, and she performed it very well. I have to give this an A. I also gave Jan an A, just for the singing live and showing real, true talent in the moment. She looked beautiful. The song was meh, but it really brought in a lot of the elements of her story. Even if they cut them, go watch the Riggery of All Stars 6 if you want the full story on Jan's talent show. So I thought she deserved an A. And lastly, Raja O'Hara. I mean, sewing a dress in a minute is insane. Hasn't been done on Drag Race, and she looked beautiful. I love that she kind of played with the audience while she was doing it. It was amazing. So now that we've graded it, let's break down how this should have gone if it was not rigged at all. Now, I was really torn on who to give the win to here, between Jan and Raja. On first watch, Raja was my favorite. It was insane. It was so cool, something we hadn't seen before. But I heard the discourse that Jan should have won. And I was like, yeah, she did really, really good. But I still liked Raja's better. Now, the real decision here came when I realized what Jan's full performance was. Go listen to the first minute and 5 seconds of the song on Spotify and you'll see what they cut. And I think obviously they cut that because she would have won with it. I mean, that's why they cut the verse, right? So I did end up giving Jan the win here. I think with those elements that were cut added in, it would have been a much more well rounded and fun and referential performance. And Raja is like a very close second for me. So I put her as high along with SCARLET. But to me, it just makes sense that Jan probably should have won if they had to cut half of her performance to hide how good it was, right? Now, for the bottom three, I actually left SERENA and Trinity in the bottom two. I thought that was fair, but I did switch out the low placement. Now, the low placement was SILKY, which I didn't think was fair because she sang and played piano live. Was it the most marvelous thing I've ever seen? No, but she showed a true talent. And someone else I thought was lacking more, which was Jiggly Caliente. If you watch back the performance, it's just really flat. She looks beautiful, but I just think she could have brought it so much harder than she did. So now we have to look at what would have happened if Jan won. She's going to lip sync to Uptown Funk against Coco Montrese, but the bottom two is still the same. And we can kind of just look at who she voted for to figure out what she would have done here if she wins the lip sync. So here's how the votes would have gone. Obviously, nothing would have changed. And the question is, does Jan win this lip sync against Coco Montrese? No. No, Coco is winning this no matter who she's against, basically. Maybe Trinity could have beat her, but, she was winning this. So the lip sync assassin is going to win, and SERENA Cha-Cha is going to go home. Now, let's move on to episode 2, The Blue Ball. Now, this was a very difficult challenge to judge because the looks were kind of all over the place. You had someone like Trinity, whose first look was literally one of the worst things we've ever seen on Drag Race, but her third look was one of the best looks of that category. So, where do you put her? There are also queens like Pandora, who I hated their final look, but their first two looks were incredible. So how do you weigh that? I tend to weigh the third look, the one that they make themselves, as a little bit more than their first two looks, which they bring. Really, in the grading, I looked for consistency. So I'll kind of go through. Let's look at who got a D. I didn't give anyone a D because no one had 3 bad looks. If someone had 3 bad looks, they would have gone here, but they didn't. So let's look at who got a C. First is the queen who actually goes home here, Jiggly Caliente. I really liked her first look. It was really funny with the garbage can. I liked her second look. Even if it was a bit basic, I immediately knew the reference and she looked adorable. But that third look was horrible. So, yeah, she ends up here. I also gave Silky Nutmeg Ganache a C. Her first look, to me, if she didn't have the hat and the milk, that doesn't say milkman at all. I think that was just a costume that she had that she kind of added elements to make a milkman. Also, aren't milkman always wearing white? I don't know. It was a good look. It just didn't feel milkmanish to me. But I did love the fact that she had a little Silky Nutmeg Ganache logo on the milk. I thought that was a really cute touch. Her second look, it was more fringe than denim. If you would have asked me what the category was by looking at this, I would have said fringe. But again, she still looks good. But I do have an issue with both of these looks. And then her third look is horrible. I don't know what's happening here. Yara Sofia got the critique that, they didn't know where to look on her third look. That's me with Silky's. I don't know what's happening. There's things everywhere. She could have lost, at least half of what she's wearing, and it would have been so much better. So I had issues with actually all 3 of Silky's looks, but she still looked amazing in the first 2. I also put Pandora here. Her first 2 looks I liked a lot. They were really, really good. But that third look, it's all one color, and it's hard to decipher what's happening. Obviously, when you look closer, you see all the ribbons. but just the draping of the bottom, and it's a mess to look at. It hurt my eyes. But also the wig was horrible. I just wish there was something to cinch her maybe a little bit, or to cut all of this same shade of blue. This was one of my least favorite of the third look, so I feel like it had to go in this category of C, because that I felt was the most important part of this challenge. And then I also put Ginger here. Now, I don't hate Ginger's performance in this challenge as much as a lot of people do, but I still have issues with it. The first look, the Mario look, was solid. It was good. The second look was, this might be my least favorite look. No, Trinity's there. This is one of my least favorite looks of the night, and one of my least favorite looks Ginger has worn. She just looks so bad. So bad. And the thing that Ginger really had to redeem this season was her looks. So the fact that she's not doing well in a ball, I'm just kind of like, okay, Ginger. And then her third look, it's clean. You can tell it's well made, but her hair is so flat, and it's just not. It's an ugly pattern, but it's well made. So I can't really knock it as much as like Jiggly's, right? So overall, I did put Ginger in the C category. Now for the B's, I put Yara Sofia here. Yes, her first look was redundant with the breastplate, which we just saw her wear in episode 1. But again, like, you don't know the order of the episodes. So if this was episode 8, it would have been a fun callback. Like, haha, she brought back the breastplate from episode 1. That's funny. But because it was back to back, it felt redundant. But I got the reference immediately, and I thought it was a really good look. Her second look is my least favorite. It's obviously not denim. It cuts her off kind of weird. But her third look, I actually don't have a problem with. She's using a lot of weird materials to make the dress. The fact that she did it in one day is incredible. And I don't really have an issue with this third look. It's fine to me. I also put a KERIA in B. She was in the bottom 3 as well. They really didn't like her first 2 looks, but I liked them both. I thought the welding one maybe could have had a bigger welding mask, but I love that she had her arm in the pipe, and it was a nice color scheme, so it was good to me. The second look I thought was great. They really thought it was basic, but I thought it was really nice. And then her third look, does it make her look a bit weird? Yes, but she really did go for an unconventional material. So I had to give her props for that. It's not the best. It's not the worst. So I thought she deserved to be here in B. I also put Jan in B. Jan's first 2 looks were slam dunks, but her third look was more on the basic side. So I couldn't give her like a slam dunk A. Trinity, I kind of went over. Her first look was horrible. Her second look was fine. Her third look was amazing. So I think that kind of balances out to B. And then I put Eureka here as well. Eureka's first look, amazing. Her second look, I didn't like. And her third look was fine. So that leaves 3 people in the A tier, and they're going to be our top 3 when we actually get to the track record. First, I had to put Scarlet Envy. Her lumberjack look is one of my favorite looks of all time. It is so smart and chic, and we've never seen anything like this, particularly with the saws going all down the sides. I just thought it was so cool. Her second look was basic, but she still looked really good. And then her third look, I mean, come on. Yes, did she just use fabric? Yeah. You cannot deny this is incredible. She looked absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Now, Raja, I thought her first look was fine. I loved her second look, and I thought her third look was really solid as well. I loved the Mugler reference, and she used an unconventional material to make it, so that's extra points in my book. And then lastly, I put Kylie here. Now, she actually has like a denim theme. All 3 of her looks had denim. I loved her first look. It was very Miley Cyrus. Her second look, I loved the spin on the Christina Aguilera Dirty era look, which is kind of interesting because she lip syncs to Dirty later in the season. But also, we love the out and proud trans representation, and I thought that she just did this beautifully. And then her third look, it was really good. It was cute. It was like a nice VMA look. I felt like someone could wear this to the VMAs. So, how does that shake out to the track record? Raja, obviously, she was in the A category, so she's going to keep her win. Would I have given the win to Scarlett? Maybe, but Raja still did amazing, so I can't say that it wasn't earned. So then we have Scarlett and Kylie in the top, and for the bottom three, it looks a lot different than from the episode. I decided to put Ginger Minj low. Her third look, the one that she made, I thought kept her from the bottom. But I think this would have been a good moment for maybe Michelle to say, Ginger, you are known for not having the best wardrobe. This was a challenge that I thought you really could have rose to the occasion and shown the growth, and we didn't get that. So, kind of like a warning, low placement here. And then I left Jiggly in the bottom, but I put Silky in the bottom with her. Silky's look was horrible, and I really felt like she pulled the first two looks from the closet and made them fit the category rather than finding something or making something that really fit. So overall, I thought that was deserved. If we look at track record, Jiggly would have been in the bottom three and now the bottom two. And especially early on, the queens were very set on being fair, which the fact that they sent SERENA home episode 1 kind of goes against that, but that's the vibe that they were going for. And I think that they were just set on Jiggly going, especially because I thought Silky did really good the first episode, and she would have just been safe. So she would have the better track record here. But it's not just up to the queens, it is up to the winner. So we have Raja and Brooke lip sync to Miss You Much, my favorite lip sync of the season. One of my favorite Janet songs. I was so excited. They both win, and I think they both pick Jiggly. I think the group picks Jiggly, and Raja picks Jiggly as well. So now we move into the Side Hustle Challenge. Now, the teams obviously stay the same. I'm not judging this episode in teams because each person on each team had such a different role to fill, and we ended up seeing queens like Eureka get snubbed of a top placement, and queens like Ginger who fell into the bottom despite doing really well. Like I said in the Riggery of All-Star 6, I personally don't like it when a queen is put into the bottom despite having a good performance. So we're not doing teams here. We're going to do teams in a different challenge. So how did the queens do? For the D category, there's no D. No one was horrible in this episode. They all did pretty good, honestly. I don't think that there was anyone that I was like, ugh. But 3 members of Team Ginger are going to be in the C category. That's KERIA, Silky, and Jan. None of them stood out. Obviously, it was a very convoluted concept, and they did not execute it that well. And their characters just kind of were flailing around. I will say Jan got a laugh out of me, and Silky got a laugh out of me. But other than that, they were all just kind of all over the place, didn't stand out, and all got overshined by Ginger. I also ended up putting Kylie in the C category here as well. Her and Scarlett obviously got overshadowed by Eureka, but I felt like Kylie got overshadowed by Scarlett a little bit as well. So let's look at the B. We actually have someone from each group. Scarlett, I thought, did fine. She did what she needed to do. She was playing basically the character from Good God Girl Get Out. And then I also put Pandora here. Now, obviously, it was Pandora's concept and idea, and she really made the commercial what it was. But of the 4 that were in her commercial, Raja, Trinity, and Yara, Pandora was the one that got kind of lost. She wasn't as funny as the others, and I sort of forgot she was there. But she still did a really good job, and obviously she made the winning commercial, so she deserves some props for that as well. And then Ginger's going to go here. She, I think, had a lot to do with the direction that the commercial went in. So she does maybe lose some points for that. But she had the best performance of her group, so she overall had a pretty solid performance for me. Now that leaves the other three members of Fix It Bitch and the demon-possessed Eureka in the top placement for the A category. Obviously, Fix It Bitch was iconic, and these three did so good. And Eureka, this is the kind of stuff that Eureka thrives in, so I'm not shocked at all that she did as good as she did. How does this judging look without being judged in teams? Trinity, I think, is still going to win. She had an amazing look. She really was the standout of her group. She kind of reminded me of Asia O'Hara in the Tap That App challenge, where whenever you see her, she's doing something hilarious that kind of like you don't see coming, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. And then I put, obviously, Eureka in the top. She did incredible. And then I had to pick between Raja and Yada, and Raja was kind of the straight man. Her and Pandora were the straight men in that. So Yada just had a couple more moments to be kind of goofy and funny. So this is a nice moment for Yada to shine because she didn't win episode 1 in this format. So that is our tops. And then our bottoms are Jan, KERIA, and SILKY. But I did put Jan as low. Jan was kind of lost, but she did okay. You know, she did fine, whereas SILKY was low energy, and KERIA, just as we see later in the acting challenge, she just has trouble being authentic when she's doing lines. So I thought that there were more issues with the other two than I had with Jan. So really nothing's going to change. So the vote is actually going to be more set than it was in the actual episode because SILKY had been in the bottom previously and KERIA hadn't. I think they're all going to pin their votes on SILKY. But what is Trinity going to do? Well, it doesn't matter because she's going to lose against Laganja, but I think she would pick SILKY too, as she did in the real episode. So now let's move on to one of the biggest episodes of the season, the one that had a lot of people upset. That is the halftime show. One of my favorite episodes of all time, one of my favorite challenges of all time. Nobody sucked. Nobody's getting a D. But who will get a C? Unfortunately, Yada is going to get a C. Her belly dancing was amazing. I loved her work with those flags, but her face was just like flat the whole time. Like she seemed so uninterested. So unfortunately, it kind of affected the whole performance, and she's going to get a C. And then I'm also going to give Ginger a C. Fergie was just a horrible choice. I don't know if it was her choice or if she got stuck with it, but there's just not enough to do with the character, and she didn't give Fergie at all. I don't know how anyone would give Fergie, but I mean, we have to judge her with what she got and what she did, and it was just, it was fun. And then I'm also going to put Eureka here. Of everyone, she gave me the least amount of her character. That was not Madonna, that was just Eureka. But it was the choreography, and I don't necessarily think that was her fault, but it still led to me watching Eureka, not me watching Madonna. You know what I mean? So those are going to be my C's. Who did I give a B? I gave KERIA a B. KERIA was fine as Prince. Was it a standout performance? No, but I thought she looked incredible. She had the groove, she had the guitar, she maybe could have gone a little bit better with the sideburns, but I thought overall that was a solid Prince. Also, I'm still waiting for someone to do Prince in Snatch Game. That would be amazing. Let's also give Raja a B. Raja just didn't have a ton to do, but it was a pretty good Diana, so I gave her a B. And then I also gave Pandora a B for kind of the same reason. Cheryl Canning. I just did it! I did it! Cheryl Canning. Carol. Oh my gosh. Monique has ruined this for me. Okay. Carol Channing just didn't have a ton to do because, you know, she's like a 70-year-old woman that Pandora's playing, as much as I think the other people who I gave A's to had. Now, I thought there were 4 amazing performances this week. First, Scarlet Envy. She had the left shark gag. She looked amazing. She had some pretty, for Scarlet, pretty hard choreography that she nailed. And she had the biggest set pieces out of anyone. So, does she have that advantage? Yes, but it was still an amazing performance. And it showed her growth from season 11, where she literally flopped so hard in the dancing challenge. So, it was really nice to see that. I also think Jan was incredible. I would give her the win over Trinity. Personally, I loved her Lady Gaga. You can tell that a little monster did that performance. Trinity also, though, I mean, that was Beyonce. Like, that was Beyonce on that stage. Beyonce's spirit literally entered Trinity's body for that, like, 40 seconds or whatever. The dancing was incredible. Her and Jan both had the hardest choreo, and they both nailed it. One of the best performances of the season for me, both Jan and Trinity in this challenge. And then Kylie as Steven Tyler, underrated. She was Steven Tyler. That was incredible. So, looking at the track record, Jan is going to keep the win because she was in that first category. She did amazing. It was one of the best of the week, so you can't say she didn't deserve it. That leaves Kylie and Trinity in the top. I put Kylie over SCARLET because Kylie had a very stripped down performance. It was a ballad. She was set on one stage. She had no props, and she still managed to do that. So I thought that was deserving of a top placement. I put Eureka as low. She wasn't Madonna, but she still did a pretty good performance. So it was hard to say, like, you deserve to be in the bottom for the choreography that was given to you. You know what I mean? It would have felt wrong. But Ginger and Yada were my bottom two. Ginger gave no Fergie. The performance was a little awkward. And then Yada had just a flat face. Like, the whole time she looked bored. So, how does the judging go? Again, I think it's a pretty cut and dry. Yes, Yada had maybe a better track record at this point, being in the top three once, but they were over Yada. Like, they were over Yada. It didn't matter. She was going to go home. And she wasn't begging to stay either, so that's kind of, I felt like, what they used to justify it. But you could tell they were over her antics in the workroom. And they're all going to vote for Yada. Jan is also going to vote for Yada here because there's no way she's voting against Ginger. And it doesn't matter because Jan loses against our lip sync assassin, Jessica Wilde. Now, episode 5. This is the one we are going to judge in teams. So, we have 2 D performances here. We haven't had a D in a while. There haven't been a ton of flops. Jan flopped. Jan flopped so hard. And I think it just came down to she really didn't understand what this challenge was asking of her, which, to be fair, I didn't necessarily either until I watched it. But yeah, it was just cringe. I also put Pandora here because she was just so... she looked like she didn't want to be there. She didn't speak up until it was her turn, basically, and gave a story about plastic surgery, I think? I don't know. I couldn't even tell you what Pandora talked about. She just looked unhappy. And as a talk show host, you have to be the opposite of that. You have to be jovial, and yeah, Pandora just did not do it for me this episode either. I ended up giving SCARLET a C. She did give the amazing story about her mothers, and it was really nice. But she kind of had some of those awkward moments that Jan had. But at least she had some great moments as well to help balance that out. But overall, it was still a C. A B I gave to Ginger Minj. Ginger knocked her part out of the park. Her story was great. The reason why I can't give her an A is because she chose to be the moderator. She picked that role. And she let her 2 partners down really, I think, a lot by not making sure they were all on the same page beforehand. Eureka, you could tell that they put in the work to know that they were all having the same energy. They all felt like they were from the same show. And Kylie, I think, maybe didn't do that as well, but she did a great job at asking questions and making sure that people got their stories out. Whereas Ginger... she did great for her, and this is where I think Ginger does this a lot. Ginger does what she needs to do for herself, but she necessarily doesn't help others as much as she could. She could have made sure, Pandora, let's get you, saying something, ask Pandora a question earlier, or made sure beforehand that maybe Jan wasn't going to be so Jan. I don't know. I just felt like with more communication, that team could have been a lot better. And that does come down to the leader who chose that role. So, Ginger. I also gave Kylie a B. Kylie, I just don't think had a story to fit her category. And so when you have Raja crying about her mother, you have Scarlett telling this beautiful story about her mother's, and then Kylie's like, I know a lot about motherhood too because I have a dog. It was like, okay, okay. But I thought Kylie's job of being moderator, she nailed. So there was more positives than negatives for me with Kylie. And then 4 people knocked it out of the park. The entire team of Eureka, Trinity, and KERIA, they all told great stories. They had great banter. They balanced jokes with also keeping it sensitive and on topic. And then also Raja. Raja really let it go. She let those walls down and she really spoke from the heart about her mother, which I think is what this is all about, this entire challenge. But like I said, it's going to be judged in teams. So Kylie's team, Kylie, Raja, and Scarlett are safe. Eureka's team is going to be in the top with Eureka getting the win because she really knocked it out of the park as moderator. And then we have Ginger as low. I'm not going to put her on the bottom because I said I don't like when people give good performances and then end up in the bottom. She's going to be low. And we're going to have a bottom 2 of Pandora and Jan. Now, what happens here? This was really interesting because Eureka versus Mayhem, I think Eureka wins, especially to a comedy song like this. And she voted for Jan in this episode. And you could tell in Untucked, she was annoyed with Jan because Jan wasn't getting the critiques. And Eureka was getting annoyed with that. But Jan has won 2 challenges at this point, and Pandora had been safe the entire time. I think everyone is going to vote for Pandora, honestly. I don't know. There is the shot that Eureka says, Jan is annoying me and I'm voting for Jan. But Eureka pretty much always played it fair, and I think if the vibe was that Pandora is going to get the votes, that Eureka probably is going to vote for Pandora here. And Pandora is going to go home. If it was a little bit closer in track record, I think maybe Jan does go home here. Eureka sends her home. But Jan had 2 wins and Pandora had nothing. So, yeah, I think Pandora is going to be done. Now, let's talk about American Horror Story. We have 1 flop performance, KERIA. Like I said, this is just not her thing. I don't think her acting and giving lines is in her wheelhouse. But it's fine. She's shown she's great at other things this season. This just was not the challenge for her. For C's, I'm going to give Raja a C. Unfortunately, the voice just didn't work. And Eureka, her character, I just don't know. I don't know what her character was. And whether that's Eureka's fault for not portraying it right, or if that's just a problem in the script itself, I don't know. But her performance was all over the place. So Pandora's gone, but I thought she did fine. And Trinity also was fine. Like, their characters were just kind of not huge. I think Pandora could have done hers a little bit bigger. And then for the A's, I mean, it took a while to get her there, but Kylie did amazing once she got those critiques from Michelle. And Jan and Ginger also just slayed it, but are we surprised? This challenge is right up their alley. Now, what's interesting is who is going to play Pandora's part, and we have Scarlett here. I think very, very simple. Ginger takes Pandora's part because it's Betty Davis and it's, camp. Scarlett takes Madison Montgomery. That part was made for Scarlett. Now, what is going to happen when they switch those roles? I think Scarlett is winning this challenge. If you look at her runway, it would have been a moment She won the acting challenge on season 11, and this part was perfect for her. So I think that's why they got rid of her the past episode, so that they wouldn't have to give her a win here. What about Kylie? I personally don't think it was fair that Michelle got to get up and completely act out Kylie's part so that she could get it right. So I'm going to say Michelle doesn't do that. And Kylie's going to end up low. She did have some of the mannerisms down. She had the voice down. But those big moments, I don't think she would have gotten if Michelle didn't get up and literally do it for her. But she still wasn't terrible. So I think she would have been low here. And then Ginger and Jan are going to be high. Then the bottom two stays the same, Raja and KERIA. And we don't really have to go over the votes. But would SCARLET win against Manila to Dirty? We know SCARLET is not the best lip syncer. But if she was going to win a lip sync, it's going to be under these circumstances. One, a song that she can just sell sex, which is literally her brand, and against Manila, who did not do that well in this performance. I'm going to say SCARLET probably wins this. Manila just didn't really do much, and I think that SCARLET could really sex up this performance. But it still would not be anywhere near as good as Kylie's, so we would have been robbed of that. Now, Show Up Queen, Pandora's not here anymore, but when she was there, it was not good. I didn't give anyone a C. I'm going to give Jan a B. Her performance was good. She looked incredible. Her verse was fine. It just didn't fit the theme. So there is that negative critique, but overall, I thought she did well. But everyone else did incredible. Everyone else got an A. Like, incredible, iconic. How would SCARLET do? I don't think well. I don't see SCARLET writing the best verse, performing it the best, having that presence that so many of the queens had on stage. So I'm going to put SCARLET in the bottom with Jan here, and everyone else is going to be high with Trinity winning. Now, how does the vote go between SCARLET and Jan? SCARLET has 1 win, Jan has 2 wins. This is Jan's second time in the bottom, SCARLET's first. I think they were over Jan at this point. And SCARLET, I think, has had some allies left. She had Raja there. It doesn't matter what Trinity would have done, but Trinity was going to send home Jan, I think. And I think that overall, the queens would have voted Jan as well. We wouldn't have got that tie moment, though, which was iconic. But SCARLET lives to see another day. So now we're at Snatch Game. Trinity, flop. She already assigned herself to being in the bottom. She was like, this is not going to be good. And when you go into anything with that mindset, you're not going to do well. So I'm not that surprised. Pandora, I gave a C to. She had a good characterization. She just didn't have the jokes. I gave Eureka and Raja both a B. They had really funny moments and then a couple moments that didn't land. But overall, still great performances. And then Ginger and Kylie both 8. And this is one of those moments where I personally would have given Kylie the win, but Ginger still did amazing, so I can't say she didn't deserve it here. And again, we're not going to do a low placement because no one really deserved it. I thought Kylie and Eureka and Raja all did amazing. Now, how would SCARLET do? I feel like she wouldn't have done well. She didn't do well in the improv challenge on season 11. She was on the bottom for it with her entire team. And the others all did so well, I don't think SCARLET could do as well. So she is going to be in the bottom here with Trinity. And how do they vote? I think that Raja probably votes to keep her season 11 sister, but I think everyone else votes out SCARLET. And I think that Ginger, this was difficult for me because Ginger thought about sending home Trinity. Trinity basically said from the start, like, this isn't my thing. Sorry. Whereas I think SCARLET would go in saying, like, I want to do better. I want to do da-da-da-da. And Ginger, I think, would be more receptive to that. But I also think that Ginger was terrified to do anything to piss off any of the girls. She knew her threat level. She knew if she started playing the game a little shadily that they could easily come for her if she was in the bottom. So I think there's maybe a chance that she gets rid of Trinity here. But I'm going to say she's going to vote out SCARLET and play it safe. But Scarlett made it a lot further than she did in the season. And we're going to have the lip sync smackdown here. I don't think it was fair to tell the girls are in the final four, or to make them think they're in the final four and then bring someone back. So we're going to do it now that we're at top 5. So how do these lip syncs go? A lot of them are going to stay the same. Free Your Mind with Jiggly and SERENA. Jiggly's going to win and move on. She's then going to lose to Silky, and girls just want to have fun. Silky's going to beat Yada in Point of No Return. But here we have Pandora against Silky in Song for the Lonely. I don't think it matters, though, because Silky's still going to win. Silky is going to go solo for Barbie Girl when KERIA doesn't decide to lip sync. And then we have her beat Jan in Heartbreaker. So the final lip sync comes down to Scarlett and Silky in Focus. I think Silky's going to win this too. And that's the final lip sync, which means Silky is coming back. Silky is returning to the competition. We are back to a top 6 for Drag Tots. So, how would they do? I gave everyone an A or a B in this challenge. Ginger, she didn't give a real character. She was just Ginger. But her look was incredible. Her performance was great. Kylie, I thought her character was so cool and her costume was so cool. She could have pulled it maybe a little bit more with the performance, but overall I think she did really, really good. And then Eureka, I think, had maybe the weakest look and character, but it was still really good. You know what I mean? Even if she did the worst, it still was not bad. And then Trinity and Raja, they ate this challenge. How would Silky do? Given Silky's track record in design challenges, I don't think she would do that well. And we can look at the Halloween ball, where she kind of refused to make herself look silly. I think maybe the same thing would happen here. And like Ginger, I don't think she would push it far enough. So I'm going to put her on the bottom with Eureka. Ginger is going to be low because she was just Ginger. And then we have Kylie and Trinity in the top with Raja winning. So how does the lip sync go? Not well, but Karen wins. And I think that they're all going to vote Silky right back out. Unfortunately, I think Silky does not last long if she comes back. But at least in this scenario, we got one more episode with her in the competition. And now we go to the monologues with our top 5. I ended up giving Ginger a B because her performance was great, but everyone thinks she was lying about the story. So in a challenge where you're supposed to be authentic, everyone's saying, yeah, that story wasn't real. Like, that was all made up. Maybe not the best. And then Raja, she stumbled in the beginning, but she picked it up and did incredible for the rest of the performance. So overall, a B. And then the other 3 all, I thought, did amazing. So Eureka's going to keep her win. Trinity and Kylie are going to be in the top, and we have a bottom 2. I forgot to mention, I'm not doing that if you're not in the top, you're in the bottom thing. It makes sense when there's just one person that would be safe in a regular All-Star season when you have a top 2 and then a bottom 3. But in this scenario, it doesn't need to happen. All it does is mess up the track record. So we have Ginger and Raja in the bottom. What happens here? I think Ginger goes home. I think that Eureka is not getting rid of Raja, and especially with Raja's track record versus Ginger's in this scenario. And I think that everyone is going to be like, wow, could potentially crown Ginger if they brought her back for a 3rd time. We need to get rid of her, like, right now. So I think that, yes, it's a double win with Jada and Eureka. And I think they all vote out Ginger. And I think Ginger gets that, like, 5th place robbed narrative. So we have a different top 4. We have Trinity here. And look how close the track records are. Everyone is within 3 points. So it's really anyone's game. I am going to break it down to a final 2, just because I like that, when there's like a 1 runner-up. So the top 2 track records are going to move on. And in this case, it's going to be Kylie and Trinity. And what's interesting is Kylie was never given a win in this scenario. She was in the top so many times that she still ends up with the best track record because she was never in the bottom. So this top 2 really could go to anybody. They're going to lip sync to Stupid Love. It's going to be iconic and amazing. Kylie does her little like fall and then falls into a cartwheel. It's going to be iconic. Who is going to win? That's going to be up to you to determine. The track records are so different because Kylie was never in the bottom and never had a win and has the better track record because of that, has the better dusted or busted score. But Trinity has 2 wins and 2 bottoms. I think that they probably crown Kylie just because I think Trinity's social media presence isn't great. She tends to pop off sometimes, whereas Kylie just seems more brandable. But she would be the first queen to win without ever winning a challenge on her season. So I'm going to leave that up to you. Comment below if this is the scenario. Who wins? I want to know your thoughts. Let me know what you would have changed from any of this. And here are all of my socials as well as my beautiful patrons. Thank you guys so much for being loyal patrons. And this was a long video. It is getting hot in my room because I had to turn my fan off. So I'm going to get out of here. It has been a long, long day solving the mystery of who had the best makeup tutorial on YouTube ever. Oh wait, I just figured it out. It's Raja O'Hara. Please watch this video. It is so funny. I love her.